Deep in the heart of the galaxy within a massive artificial world called Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The sphere world was larger than Earth's moon and orbited directly around the galaxy's central black hole. Its surface gleamed with the light of contained stars, and its interior held wonders beyond imagination. Council leader Veltar floated in his crystalline chamber, reviewing the impossible sensor reports. His species had long ago transcended physical form, becoming beings of pure energy contained within elegant crystal matrices. For 10,000 years he had guided galactic civilization, maintaining peace and order across millions of worlds. The reports before Veltar defied all logic. 12 primitive vessels had somehow penetrated the outer detection grids that surrounded the galactic core. These grids were designed to detect and stop any unauthorized approach, yet these crude ships had passed through them as if they did not exist. Science Coordinator Quinda materialized beside Veltar, her bioluminescent form pulsing with patterns of concern. Her species communicated through color and light, and right now, her body displayed deep confusion mixed with growing alarm. She had been analyzing the human ships for hours, and her findings disturbed her greatly. The human vessels were unlike anything in the Council's vast databases. They used primitive fusion technology for power, crude kinetic weapons for offense, and thick metal armor for defense. Every design principle violated the elegant standards that mark civilized spacefaring races. Instead of working with natural forces, the humans seemed determined to overpower them through brute force. Quinda showed Veltar detailed scans of the human ships. The largest vessel, called Iron Phoenix, according to their intercepted communications, was covered in scars from previous battles. The armor plating showed evidence of energy, weapon impacts, kinetic strikes, and even nuclear explosions, yet the ship continued to function normally. Most disturbing of all, every single human ship was heavily armed with weapons designed specifically for destroying other ships. The Council had not seen such aggressive military design in over 5,000 years. Most galactic species built exploration vessels, scientific ships, and peaceful transports. The humans built nothing but warships defense. Minister Rolkin entered the chamber, his mechanical form clanking against the crystal floor. His species had replaced their biological bodies with advanced robotics millennia ago, seeking perfection through technology. His optical sensors glowed red with anger. As he reviewed the tactical situation, Rolkin argued for immediate military action. The appearance of primitive warships near the galactic core represented a catastrophic security breach. The humans had somehow bypassed every containment protocol designed to keep developing species confined to their home systems. This could not be allowed to continue. The defense minister brought up the historical records. Every species that had achieved interstellar travel had been contacted by the Council and given a choice: submit to Council authority and accept their place in galactic civilization, or be destroyed before they could threaten galactic peace. The system had worked perfectly for 10 millennia. Cultural analyst Zephyra disagreed with Rolkin's assessment. Her ethereal form shifted through different colors as she presented her findings. The humans were unlike any species the Council had previously encountered. Their entire history seemed to be one of continuous warfare against each other and everything else they encountered. Zephyra had conducted deep psychological scans of the human crews. The results frightened her. These beings had never known true peace. Their technology had been developed through centuries of actual combat experience. They had fought wars against their own kind, against alien creatures, and against the hostile environment of space itself. The humans showed no signs of the natural deference that other species displayed when encountering superior technology. Instead, their psychological profiles suggested they would fight back against any threat, regardless of the odds. Their brain chemistry showed patterns associated with predatory species that never backed down from confrontation. Environmental Monitor Kexelo added his own disturbing observations. The human ships showed signs of operating in conditions that would destroy most civilized vessels. They had been exposed to radiation levels that should have killed their crews, fought battles in gravitational fields that should have torn their ships apart, and survived in the vacuum of space for months without resupply. The Council members debated the implications of first contact with such an aggressive species. Every other race they had encountered had accepted Council authority once they understood the technological gap. The humans might actually refuse to submit even when faced with overwhelming superior force. Veltar considered the options available to the Council. They could attempt peaceful contact and hope the humans proved reasonable. They could demonstrate their superior technology to encourage submission, or they could follow Rolkin's advice and destroy the human fleet before it could report back to its homeworld. The debate continued for hours as more disturbing intelligence arrived. The human ships were not exploring or conducting scientific research. They were patrolling their territory like predators marking boundaries. Their formation and movement patterns suggested they were prepared for combat at any moment. Quinda presented her analysis of human communications. The language was filled with military terminology and references to past battles. The crew members spoke casually about violence and death, as if warfare was a normal part of their existence. Their cultural references suggested a society built around conflict and competition. The Council faced a crisis unlike any in their long history. They had maintained galactic peace by ensuring that primitive species never developed beyond their ability to control. The human fleet represented a complete failure of this system. Somehow an aggressive warrior species had achieved interstellar travel and military capability. Rolkin pressed his argument for immediate action. The humans had to be stopped before they could return to their homeworld with information about the galactic core. If they reported the existence of the Council, their entire species would know that galactic civilization existed. This could lead to unpredictable consequences. Zephyra warned against hasty action. Her psychological profile suggested that attacking the humans might be exactly the wrong approach. These beings seemed to thrive on conflict and adversity. Destroying their ships might only convince their homeworld that a threat existed and prompt them to send larger fleets. The debate reached a critical point when long-range sensors detected something that chilled even the ancient Council members. The human ships were not alone. More vessels were approaching from human space. The primitives were already sending reinforcements. Veltar made the decision that would change galactic history. The Council would dispatch the enforcement fleet to make contact with the human vessels. Their mission would be to demand immediate surrender and submission to Council authority. The fleet had not seen combat in 3,000 years, but their technology was still vastly superior to anything the humans possessed. The enforcement fleet began powering up their ancient but incredibly advanced vessels. Ships that could manipulate matter at the quantum level, craft that could fold space-time to travel instantly across vast distances, weapons that could crack planets and shields that could deflect the light of stars themselves. Fleet Commander Yex Hai received his orders with confusion. He had spent centuries overseeing peaceful contact missions with primitive species. The standard procedure was simple: demonstrate superior technology, explain Council authority, and accept the inevitable surrender. No species had ever refused to submit once they understood the power they faced as the enforcement fleet prepared for departure. The Council members felt confident that this would be another routine contact mission. They would demonstrate their power, the humans would submit, and galactic order would be maintained. They had no idea they were about to encounter a species that had never in their entire history surrendered to anyone. The ancient warships of the Council began their journey to meet the human fleet. Their crews prepared for what they assumed would be a simple display of force, followed by the humans' inevitable capitulation. None of them suspected they were about to face warriors who would rather die than kneel. The year was 2387, and space around the outer rim felt cold and empty like always. Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Iron Phoenix, and watched the stars through the thick, armored windows. His cybernetic eye glowed, blue in the dim light, as he studied the navigation chart spread across the holographic display. The Iron Phoenix was not a beautiful ship, like the ones shown in old Earth movies. Instead, it looked like a flying fortress covered in heavy armor plating and bristling with weapons. The scars on its hull told stories of countless battles against pirates, rebels, and hostile alien creatures. The ship had been built for one purpose: to fight and survive in the dangerous void between stars. Kim Tae-ho was a veteran of 30 years of space combat. His face bore the marks of old battles, including the cybernetic eye he got after a raider attack on Europa Station. He commanded a fleet of 12 human warships, each one a testament to centuries of warfare and technological advancement. The humans had learned long ago that space was not peaceful, and their ships reflected this harsh reality. Lieutenant Commander Park So-jin sat at her navigation console monitoring the sensor arrays. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight bun and her dark eyes focused intently on the strange readings appearing on her screens. Something was wrong with the sensors today. They were picking up gravitational anomalies that should not exist. Park So-jin had been monitoring space for 15 years and she had never seen anything like this. The readings showed massive gravitational waves coming from the direction of the galactic core. These waves were not natural. They followed patterns that suggested intelligent design and technology far beyond human understanding. Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho received the alert on his engineering station. Deep in the bowels of the Iron Phoenix, he worked among the massive fusion reactors that powered the ship. His hands were stained. With grease in his coveralls bore patches from various repairs. The reactors hummed with barely contained power ready to push the ship to incredible speeds or channel energy into the weapon systems. Choi Min-ho studied the gravitational readings with growing concern. In his 25 years of engineering, he had learned to trust unusual sensor data. Often the strange readings turned out to be the most important ones. He called up to the bridge to report his findings. The gravitational patterns were definitely artificial and they were huge. Much bigger than anything humans could create. Weapons Officer Lee Da-yoon monitored her tactical displays from her position near the center of the bridge. Her station controlled enough firepower to level a small city, and she knew how to use every weapon on the ship. The daughter of military officers, she had grown up around warships and joined the fleet as soon as she was old enough. Lee Da-yoon noticed that the gravitational anomalies were affecting their long-range sensors. The waves seemed to be interfering with normal spacetime around the galactic core. This was not just unusual technology. This was something that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. Captain Yoon Jae-sung commanded the destroyer Stormblade, one of the smaller ships in Admiral Kim's fleet. His ship was fast and deadly, designed for hit-and-run attacks against larger opponents. Yoon had served under Kim for 10 years and trusted the Admiral's judgment completely. When his sensors confirmed the same strange readings, he immediately reported to the flagship. The 12 ships of the human fleet had been on a routine patrol mission checking the outer boundaries of human space for threats. They were 3 months out from the nearest human colony and 6 months from Earth. None of them expected to discover evidence of a galactic civilization that could control gravity itself. Admiral Kim gathered his senior officers for an emergency meeting in the Iron Phoenix's briefing room. The room was functional and plain like everything else on the warship. Metal chairs surrounded a simple table with a holographic projector in the center. The walls displayed star charts and tactical information. Meeting began with Park So-jin presenting her sensor data. The gravitational waves were definitely coming from artificial sources near the galactic core. The waves followed mathematical patterns that indicated advanced technology capable of manipulating space-time on a massive scale. This was far beyond anything in human science. Choi Min-ho explained the engineering implications. The technology required to create such gravitational effects would need power sources equivalent to stars. The civilization that built this technology had to be incredibly advanced, much more so than humanity. They were looking at evidence of a galactic-level intelligence. Lee Da-yoon added her tactical assessment. If this civilization could manipulate gravity, they probably had weapons and defenses beyond human understanding. Any contact with such beings would be extremely dangerous. The human fleet was powerful by human standards, but might be helpless against such advanced technology. Captain Yoon suggested they should return to Earth immediately with this information. The discovery of an advanced galactic civilization was too important to risk losing in a first contact scenario. The safe course would be to retreat and let Earth's government decide how to proceed. Admiral Kim listened to all the arguments, then made his decision. They would not retreat. Instead, the fleet would investigate these gravitational anomalies directly. This was the greatest discovery in human history, and he would not let it slip away without learning more. The admiral believed that humanity needed to know what was out there. The other officers were surprised by this decision. Standard protocols called for caution when encountering unknown technology, but Admiral Kim had not become a fleet commander by following safe protocols. He had earned his rank by taking calculated risks and winning battles against impossible odds. The admiral explained his reasoning. Humanity had spent centuries expanding into space by confronting the unknown. If they ran from every superior technology, they would never have left Earth. The human spirit demanded that they face challenges head-on, even when the odds seemed hopeless. The fleet began preparations for the journey to the galactic core. Fusion reactors were pushed to maximum efficiency. Weapon systems were checked and rechecked. Supply inventories were verified to ensure they had enough resources for an extended mission. The crews worked with the focused intensity of people heading into unknown danger park. Sojin plotted the course to the source of the gravitational anomalies. The journey would take them through unexplored regions of space far from any human outpost. They would be completely on their own if they encountered hostility. The nearest human reinforcements were months away at maximum speed. As the Iron Phoenix and her 11 escort ships turned toward the galactic core, their crews had no idea they were about to make first contact with the Galactic Council, the ancient alien civilization that had ruled the galaxy for millennia and considered themselves the rightful masters of all space. The humans were like primitive warriors walking into the throne room of gods. But these particular warriors carried nuclear weapons and had absolutely no concept of backing down from a fight. The human fleet accelerated toward their destiny, leaving brilliant trails of fusion fire in the darkness. Their sensors detected massive artificial structures orbiting the galactic core, constructs the size of small moons that seemed to channel the energy of black holes themselves. The greatest adventure in human history was about to begin. The human fleet maintained tight battle formation as space around them began to shimmer and warp. Admiral Kim Tae-ho watched from the bridge of the Iron Phoenix as massive alien vessels emerged from what appeared to be tiers in reality itself. The ships that materialized were unlike anything in human experience. The alien vessels were enormous, dwarfing even the Iron Phoenix, which was considered massive by human standards. Their hulls curved in impossible geometries that seemed to bend light around them. Materials that looked like liquid metal flowed across their surfaces, constantly reshaping and reforming. The ships were beautiful in an alien way, but their size made them terrifying. Lieutenant Commander Park. Sojin worked frantically at her sensor station, trying to understand what she was seeing. The alien ships had appeared without any detectable energy signature. They had simply materialized as if they had been folded out of space itself. Her instruments could barely track their movements. Communications officer Nam Subin attempted to establish contact with the alien fleet. Her equipment struggled to find frequencies that the alien ships would respond to. When contact was finally established, the cultural shock was immediate and devastating to both sides. The voice that came through the translation systems belonged to Fleet Commander HFY of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. His words carried the authority of someone who had never been disobeyed. The translation made his meaning clear, but the concepts he expressed had no human equivalent. Commander HFY demanded immediate surrender of all human vessels. He explained that the humans had violated galactic law by approaching the core region without council permission. Their primitive technology and aggressive nature made them a threat to galactic peace. They must submit to council judgment immediately. The alien commander seemed genuinely confused when the humans did not immediately comply. He repeated his demands using different words as if the problem was simply one of translation. The concept that any species would refuse council authority appeared to be beyond his understanding. Chief Diplomat Han Ji-woo had trained for first contact scenarios throughout her career, but nothing had prepared her for this. The alien spoke of species-wide subjugation and permanent inferior status as if these were natural laws of the universe. They could not seem to understand human concepts of sovereignty and self-determination. Admiral Kim listened to the alien demands with growing anger. His cybernetic eye glowed brighter as his blood pressure rose. The idea that humanity should bow to these creatures simply because they possessed superior technology went against everything he believed. Every human instinct rebelled against the suggestion of surrender. The admiral asked Han Ji-woo to request clarification about the aliens' terms. The diplomat tried to find common ground, asking about peaceful coexistence and mutual respect. But the alien responses made it clear that the council recognized only two types of species: rulers and subjects. Captain Yoon Jae-sung reported from the Stormblade that the alien ships were taking positions around the human formation. His destroyer was completely surrounded by vessels that could probably vaporize his ship with a single shot. Yet he maintained his position and prepared his weapons for Battle Chief Engineer Choi. Minho monitored the power systems as tension built throughout the fleet. The fusion reactors hummed at maximum output, ready to channel energy into weapons and shields. His engineering team stood ready to push every system beyond safe limits if combat became necessary. Weapons Officer Lee Da-yoon studied the alien ships through her targeting systems. Their technology was clearly superior to anything humanity possessed, but they were not invincible. Her scanners detected energy patterns that suggested weak points in their defenses. Every ship had vulnerabilities if you knew where to look. The conversation between Admiral Kim and Commander Yexhai became increasingly heated. The alien commander could not understand why the humans refused to accept what he saw as the natural order of things. Advanced species commanded, primitive species obeyed. This was how galactic civilization had always functioned. Admiral Kim tried to explain human history and values. He spoke of the wars for independence, the struggles against tyranny, and the human belief that freedom was worth any sacrifice. Commander Yexhai found these concepts incomprehensible. Why would anyone choose to fight against superior force when submission guaranteed survival? The cultural divide became impossible to bridge when Admiral Kim delivered humanity's final answer. Speaking clearly and calmly, he informed the council that humans had never bowed to anyone in their history, and they would not start now. The human fleet was prepared to defend itself against any aggression. The admiral's words, translated across dozens of alien languages, sent shockwaves through the council fleet. No species had ever refused council authority so directly. The very idea that primitives would threaten to fight back seemed to paralyze some of the alien crew members with disbelief. Commander Yexhai reported the situation to the Galactic Council, requesting new orders. The council members were equally stunned by the human response. Their psychological profiles had suggested the humans were aggressive, but no one had predicted outright defiance of council authority. Weapons systems on both fleets began powering up as the standoff intensified. The council ships started glowing, with barely contained energies that could manipulate matter at the quantum level. Their shields shimmered into existence, creating barriers that could deflect the light of stars. The human ships responded by charging their own weapons systems: nuclear warheads armed in their launch tubes, railguns loaded with tungsten penetrators, particle beam weapons focused and ready to fire. The humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of destruction, and their weapons showed it. Tactical Officer Bae Hyun-ki reported that the alien formation was shifting into what appeared to be an attack pattern. The graceful curves of their ships began to orient toward human vessels. Energy readings spiked as exotic weapon systems came online. Admiral Kim gave his fleet the order to prepare for combat. Each ship acknowledged and locked weapons on their assigned targets. The humans knew they were outmatched, but they had fought impossible odds before. Surrender was not in their vocabulary. The tension reached a breaking point when a young council officer monitoring the human communications panicked at what he was hearing. The aliens had expected quick submission, followed by peaceful processing. Instead, they faced warriors who spoke calmly of dying in battle rather than accepting slavery. The panic spread through the council fleet as they realized these primitives were actually planning to fight crew members who had never experienced real combat, began making mistakes. Equipment that had not been used in millennia showed signs of malfunction. The council's superiority was real, but their experience with actual warfare was non-existent. Commander Yexhai found himself in a situation no council officer had faced in 3,000 years. He commanded ships that could destroy planets, but he faced opponents who seemed unafraid of death. His training had prepared him for accepting surrender, not for fighting determined enemies. The moment that changed galactic history came when the young council officer's panic overcame his training. His finger slipped on his weapon controls, sending a blast of exotic energy toward the human formation. The shot went wide, missing the Iron Phoenix by mere kilometers. But the damage was done. Both fleets erupted into action as the first shot of the war was fired. Space around the galactic core filled with the light of weapons that had not tasted battle in millennia. The meeting of two civilizations had become a clash that would shake the foundations of the galaxy itself. The space around the galactic core exploded into chaos as weapons fire lit up the darkness between stars. The Council's opening attack unleashed energies that could vaporize asteroids, sending beams of pure force that bent space itself toward the human fleet. But the humans had spent centuries perfecting one art above all others: survival in combat. Captain Yoon's destroyer, Stormblade, took the brunt of the first alien salvo. Her armor plating glowed cherry red from absorbed energy, while internal systems sparked and failed. But instead of retreating, Yoon ordered a direct assault on the nearest Council vessel. His crew responded without hesitation, despite facing impossible odds. The Stormblade was tiny compared to its alien opponent, but it charged directly at the massive Council ship, while launching a spread of nuclear torpedoes. The alien crew watched in disbelief as the primitive vessel refused to break off what appeared to be a suicidal attack, run aboard the Iron Phoenix admiral. Kim coordinated his fleet's response with the cold precision of someone who had fought impossible odds before. His cybernetic eye flickered with tactical data as he analyzed the alien attack patterns. The humans could not match the aliens' advanced technology, but they could use tactics refined through centuries of warfare. Kim ordered his ships to use concentrated firepower against single targets, rather than spreading their attacks. The human philosophy was simple: if you could not win through superior technology, you won through superior tactics and the willingness to take risks that sane people would avoid. Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho pushed the Iron Phoenix's fusion reactors beyond safe operating limits, channeling raw power into weapons and shields that were never designed to handle such energy loads. Sparks showered the engineering decks as systems strained beyond their design parameters, but the ship's weapons output doubled. The human philosophy of engineering was different from other species. If something was worth doing, it was worth overdoing. Human ships could operate at dangerous power levels for short periods, accepting the risk of catastrophic failure in exchange for temporary advantages. Lieutenant Commander Park So-jin made a critical observation during the opening minutes of battle. The alien ships, despite their incredible technology, moved in predictable patterns. Their formations were perfect, their maneuvers were textbook, but they had not fought a real war. In thousands of years, the Council vessels had been designed by committees of scientists and engineers who prioritized efficiency and safety over combat effectiveness. Their crews had trained in simulations and exercises, but had never faced opponents who shot back. Their tactics were elegant but outdated. Park So-jin relayed her observations to Weapons Officer Lee Da-eun, who immediately began exploiting the aliens' predictable movements. Lee targeted not the heavily shielded alien hulls, but the delicate sensor arrays and communication systems that extended from them like vulnerable limbs. Human railguns, crude but effective, punched through energy shields designed to stop exotic particles. The shields could deflect beams of coherent energy and streams of antimatter, but simple tungsten slugs traveling at significant fractions of light speed passed through them like they were not there. The first Council ship to take serious damage was the heavy cruiser commanded by Subcommander Velketh. A human railgun round punched through his sensor array, destroying the ship's ability to coordinate with the fleet. Suddenly, the elegant alien formation began to break down as ships lost contact with each other. Captain Yoon's suicidal charge reached its climax as the Stormblade closed to point-blank range with the Council flagship. The destroyer's nuclear torpedoes detonated against the alien ship's shields in brilliant flashes that lit up space for thousands of kilometers. The explosions did not penetrate the shields, but they overloaded the power systems. The Stormblade fired her main guns directly into the overloaded shield generators. The concentrated firepower of a human destroyer designed for ship-to-ship combat tore through the weakened defenses and smashed into the Council ship's hull. For the first time in 3,000 years, a Council vessel took direct battle damage. Aboard the Council flagship, Fleet Commander HFY stared in shock at the damage reports. His ship had been hurt by primitives using weapons that barely registered on his technology scanners. The psychological impact was even greater than the physical damage. His crew had believed they were invincible. The battle's momentum shifted as more human ships closed to short range where their primitive weapons could be effective. The aliens had superior technology, but the humans had superior tactics, and more importantly, the willingness to accept casualties in exchange for inflicting damage. Chief Engineer Choi Min-ho reported that several Council ships were showing signs of reactor instability. The aliens had built their power systems for efficiency, not for combat operations. When forced to operate at maximum output for extended periods, their elegant engineering began to fail. Tactical Officer Bae Hyun-ki identified another weakness in the Council formation. Their ships were too large and complex to change direction quickly. The massive vessels could outrun human ships in a straight line, but they could not match human agility in close combat. Admiral Kim ordered his fleet to exploit this advantage. Human ships darted between the larger alien vessels like fighters attacking bombers. The Council ships could not bring their main weapons to bear without risking damage to their own forces. The elegant alien formation collapsed into chaos. The battle had been raging for 2 hours when Captain Song Mi-young arrived with human reinforcements. Her heavy cruiser Thunderstrike led a squadron of fresh warships into the combat zone. Their undamaged weapons and full ammunition loads gave the humans a crucial advantage. Song Mi-young had been monitoring the battle from long range and had developed new tactics based on what she observed. Her ships attacked the Council vessel's weapon mounts, directly using precision strikes to disable alien guns. The Council ships began losing their ability to fight back. Science officer Dr. Ryu Chan-wook made a terrifying discovery while monitoring the battle. The exotic energies being unleashed by both fleets were interacting with the artificial gravitational fields that surrounded the galactic core. These fields had been carefully maintained for millennia, but now they were beginning to destabilize. The gravitational control systems were not designed to handle the massive energy discharges from modern weapons. The delicate balance that kept cosmic forces in check was being disrupted by the battle. Neither side realized they were damaging the very infrastructure of galactic civilization. Dr. Ryu reported his findings to Admiral Kim, but the Admiral faced an impossible choice. He could not retreat without abandoning his damaged ships, and he could not surrender after coming. So far, the humans had never backed down from a fight, and they would not start now. The Council fleet was also trapped by their own pride. Fleet Commander HFY could not allow primitives to defeat advanced Council forces without losing all credibility. With the hundreds of species under Council rule, the political implications of retreat were worse than the military costs of continued fighting. Captain Yoon's Stormblade was now running on backup power with most of her weapons destroyed. But Yoon refused to withdraw. His ship had inflicted more damage on the Council fleet than anyone thought possible. He would fight until his ship was destroyed, or the battle was won. The gravitational instabilities grew stronger as the battle continued. Space itself began to warp and twist as the control fields collapsed. Stars that had burned steadily for billions of years began to flicker as gravitational waves washed over them. Both fleets detected the growing chaos, but neither side was willing to be the first to stop fighting. The humans refused to surrender on principle, while the Council could not accept defeat by primitives. The battle continued, even as reality itself began to break down around them. The turning point came when Captain Yoon realized his ship was doomed but could still serve one final purpose. With his weapons destroyed and his ship crippled, he ordered a collision course with the Council flagship. The Stormblade would become a guided missile the size of a city. Block Admiral Kim watched in horror and pride as the Stormblade accelerated toward the enemy flagship. Captain Yoon and his crew had chosen to sacrifice themselves to give the fleet a chance at victory. Their courage would be remembered as long as humanity survived. The collision was visible across 3 star systems as the Stormblade struck the Council flagship. The explosion tore a massive hole in the alien vessel and destroyed its gravitational control transmitter. The loss of that single ship would have consequences that reached across the galaxy. The explosion of the Stormblade against the Council flagship sent shockwaves through both fleets, but the real catastrophe was just beginning. The destruction of the alien ship's gravitational control transmitter triggered a cascade failure in the ancient systems that had regulated the galactic core for 10,000 years. Admiral Kim watched the growing chaos on his sensors as space-time itself began to writhe and buckle around them. The gravitational fields that had been as constant as the stars themselves were now fluctuating wildly, sending ripples of distorted space racing outward at the speed of light. Lieutenant Commander Park So-jin reported that the artificial structures orbiting the galactic core were beginning to break. Apart, massive technological constructs the size of planets were tumbling toward the central black hole, as the gravitational anchors that held them in place failed one by one. The battle had raged for 6 hours, and both fleets showed severe damage. The human ships built to absorb punishment continued fighting, despite wounds that would have crippled vessels from more civilized species. The Iron Phoenix had lost half her weapon systems, but Admiral Kim refused to consider retreat chief engineer. Choi Min-ho worked frantically to keep the ship's systems running as gravitational waves battered the hull. The fusion reactors were operating far beyond safe limits, but they had no choice. Power failures now would mean death for everyone. Aboard weapons, Officer Lee Da-eun coordinated the remaining human ships as they pressed their attack against the confused Council fleet. The aliens had superior technology, but they were losing the will to fight. Their crews had never experienced anything like this level of destruction and chaos. On the Council flagship, Fleet Commander HFY faced a crisis beyond his comprehension. His advanced vessels were being systematically destroyed by primitives using weapons that should not have been effective. His tactical computers could no longer predict human behavior patterns. The humans fought with a creativity and adaptability that made their actions mathematically unpredictable. They used damaged ships as decoys, turned reactor overloads into weapons, and coordinated attacks through means the aliens could not intercept. The Council had grown dependent on their ability to calculate outcomes. Captain Song Mi-young led her reinforcement squadron in a desperate attack on the remaining Council vessels. Her heavy cruiser Thunderstrike had taken severe damage, but her crew continued fighting with the same determination that marked all human warriors. They would rather die than surrender. The gravitational instabilities were spreading faster than anyone had predicted. Dr. Ryu Chan-wook monitored the collapse from his science station as artificial gravity wells that had existed for millennia suddenly vanished. Stars throughout the core region began to move from their ancient positions. The Yao implications were staggering. If the gravitational control systems completely failed, the resulting chaos could destroy galactic civilization, worlds would be torn from their orbits, solar systems would collapse, and billions of beings would die as the fundamental structure of space-time broke down. Both fleets began receiving reports of the devastation spreading throughout the core region. Ancient space stations older than human civilization tumbled into the black hole. Planets that had been carefully positioned to serve as observation posts were flung out into the void. The Galactic Council's magnificent capital world, Nexus Prime, reported massive structural damage as the gravitational fields that held it in orbit fluctuated wildly. The artificial world that had been the seat of galactic government for 10,000 years was beginning to crack apart. Council leader Veltar sent desperate messages to Fleet Commander HFY, ordering him to stop the fighting at any cost. The battle was destroying everything the Council had built over millennia of careful planning. The cost of victory was becoming higher than the cost of defeat. But Fleet Commander HFY faced an impossible situation. His fleet was being destroyed by primitives, and retreat would mean the end of Council authority throughout the galaxy. If word spread that humans had defeated the enforcement fleet, every subject species would question Council power. The human fleet was equally trapped by their own nature. Admiral Kim knew that surrendering now would condemn humanity to slavery, but continuing to fight was destroying the galaxy itself. The gravitational waves were already reaching human space, threatening Earth and every human colony. Communications. Officer Nam Subin detected something that changed everything. Long-range sensors showed massive explosions throughout the galactic core as the ancient technology that had stabilized the region for millennia finally collapsed. The damage was already irreversible. Captain Yoon's sacrifice had accomplished more than anyone realized. The destruction of the Council flagship's gravitational transmitter had been the final blow to a system already strained by the battle. The entire network of gravitational controls was now failing in sequence. Dr. Ryu made an announcement that stunned both fleets. The gravitational chaos was generating exotic matter that should not exist in normal space-time. The fabric of reality itself was beginning to tear as forces beyond comprehension were unleashed. Tactical Officer Bae-hyun Ki reported that several Council ships were attempting to retreat, but the gravitational anomalies were preventing them from using their advanced propulsion systems. The elegant technology that allowed instant travel across space required stable gravitational fields. The human ships with their crude but reliable fusion drives were actually better equipped to navigate the chaos. Their primitive technology was not dependent on the gravitational manipulation that powered Council vessels. The humans could still maneuver while the aliens were trapped. Admiral Kim realized this gave him a crucial advantage. He could offer to help evacuate Council personnel from the disaster zone in exchange. For an end to hostilities, it was a chance to achieve victory without completely destroying galactic civilization. Fleet Commander Yexhai received an impossible transmission from the human admiral. Kim was offering a temporary ceasefire to coordinate evacuation efforts. The concept stunned the Council forces. These primitives, after being attacked and threatened with slavery, were offering to help save their enemies. The offer revealed something about human nature that the Council had never encountered. Before, humans were capable of mercy even toward those who had tried to enslave them. It was a level of moral development that the supposedly advanced Council had never achieved. Engineering teams from both fleets began working together.